Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and he leads me beside the quiet stream, and he restores my failing health, and he helps me to do what honors him the most. That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe. In his arms.
That much more powerful and that much more affecting to be in person with these pictures, paintings, works of art, each of which depicts an individual, a loved one, a victim, a soul. As we begin our conversation, I want to offer first a word of Torah that's really a word of prayer. Torah in Hebrew is the name of the first 5 books of the Bible, but it's also our word for wisdom, learning, divine inspiration, more broadly conceived. This last week's Torah portion, at a key moment, included the phrase in God's mouth, Ki ani Adonai rofecha, I, Adonai, am your healer. God heals. It's something we're used to saying and thinking about, but what does it really mean? And pieces of that phrase, or a piece of that phrase, found its way into the daily prayer book. Each and every day, 3 times a day, in traditional Jewish prayer. Similar words are said, a request to God: heal us that we may be healed, save us that we may be saved. You are the one deserving of praise. Bring complete healing to all our suffering, for you are God and sovereign, a faithful and compassionate healer. Baruch atah Adonai, praised are you, God, healer of the ill among your people. Healing's powerful and important thing. And we call upon God to promote healing. But God doesn't heal us all by God's self. We actually help to heal one another. And so I want to share some words of prayer composed by a beloved colleague and friend, Rabbi Naomi Levy, whom some of you have heard of, I'm sure. Rabbi Levy writes prayers in the moment, often publishes them. And this first set of words comes from a prayer that she wrote after the massacre in Newtown, Connecticut. I took some lines from it because I think it speaks to why we're here together. Bless us, God, work through us. Turn our helplessness into action. Teach us to believe that we can rise up from tragedy with a renewed faith in the goodness of our society. Shield us from indifference, from our tendency to forget. Open our hearts, open our hands. Innocent blood is calling out to us to act. Remind us that we must commit ourselves to prevent further bloodshed with all our hearts and souls. Teach us perseverance and dedication. Let us rise up as one in a time of soul searching and repair. God of the brokenhearted, God of the living, God of the dead, gather the souls of the victims into your eternal shelter. Let them find peace in your presence, God. Their lives have ended, but their lights can never be extinguished. May they shine on us always and illuminate our way. Amen. We are frightened, God, worried for our loved ones, worried for our world, helpless and confused. We turn to you, seeking comfort, faith, and hope. Help us, God, to see that we are one world, one people who will rise above this tragedy, these tragedies together. Send us health, God, watch over us. Grace us with your love. Bless us with your healing light. Hear us, God. Heal us, God. Amen. We come together in search of healing. We come together in the hope that we might be able to heal one another. We come together to learn, to listen, to grieve, and to commit ourselves to doing something about it. So welcome. I want to begin by inviting each of our panelists to actually unmute. And Sarah, can we spotlight each of the panel members? That would be great. That would be great. And hey, Arlene, how are you?
Hi, good evening. My name is Arlene Turner, and I'm the mother of David Willis. Christopher Hargrove was his artist, and I took a screenshot of his picture, even though I have a picture actually next to him when I went to go see the exhibit.
So Arlene just modeled how we're going to do these little introductions. And I thank you, friend, and so glad you're here with us. Who would like to go next? Sarah, go ahead.
If you can do me a favor, there's a lot of us on here. If you are a panel member, can you begin talking so I can find you a little bit easier?
I am. I'm
Go
Laura
ahead.
Madeline with the Soul Shot Portrait Project. And this is Arlene's son.
That's him.
And yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm happy you're doing this. And I always never fails to choke me up when I see these beautiful portraits.
Laura, say a bit more about Soul Shot and the overall project.
We are an art project which we randomly pair fine artists with family members or friends of victims of gun violence. And the artists, ideally, it wasn't easy with the COVID restrictions, but ideally the artists will meet with the family member or friend and spend some time learning about who the person was. So we're very focused on the lives that were lived rather than the details of the deaths. And just from talking to a lot of families myself and friends, I know that they often just get asked about the circumstances of the shooting and also in media and newspaper articles that there tends to be a lot of focus on the shooting and there's a lot of well, there's some victim blaming, frankly, and we find that these were people that deserve to have their stories told, and there's a lot of misconception about why and how these acts of violence happened. But I'm getting off the track anyway. So the artists meet with a family or friend and they learn about the lives and create a portrait. And if any of you have seen them, when you just saw images of them, but they're very different, just as all the people are different. The approaches by the artists are everywhere from, you saw a totally abstract sculpture to very, almost photorealistic approaches. And we take all the portraits each year. We've been doing this since the first exhibition was in 2017. And there's about 30 portraits in each exhibition, and they travel to different venues it moves about every month or six weeks and stays on view for a year. And then we come in with the next. Unfortunately, there's no shortage of people to be making the portraits of. And we do some outreach. We provide docents to take people through the exhibitions and do some projects. And obviously, again, we've been very, we've had to, just like everybody, have had to think of different ways to do stuff during this time. But that about sums it up. I just see somebody's asking, we're not a portrait. They're asking if the families get to keep the portraits. We're not a portrait giveaway project. I like to think of the exhibitions themselves as a piece of artwork. The effect that they have is artwork has a very it has a very specific way that it touches people, and it's also the artists are donating their talents, and so we don't ask them to donate the actual artwork. With that said, many of the artists will offer the portrait to the family member or friend. The families or friends do get a full color print if they want it of the portrait, and they also get a full color catalog with commentary, with full color images and commentary. So.
David, I can go next. Hi,
Please do.
My name is Max Milkman. I've been around before. I'm with Ceasefire PA. the state's leading gun violence prevention organization. And I'm really grateful to be here with you all to have the discussion. Ceasefire PA is a statewide group that focuses on passing stronger gun laws and protecting our communities from gun violence. And we do that by creating coalitions of survivors, faith leaders, healthcare workers, teachers, students, anyone who wants to get interested in gun violence prevention to join our movement and advocate for stronger gun laws, advocate for addressing the easy access to firearms, and also addressing the community violence we see in our cities. And like I said, I'm really lucky to be here with you all. I grew up in Montgomery County. I'm a Perlman Jewish Day School alum, and I graduated from Temple University. And our whole organization is just focused on empowering people to share their voices. And Soul Shots is one of these incredible programs we see here in Pennsylvania to actually give voices to those who don't have them, and also highlight the importance of giving resources to our survivors as well and the victims' families. And I look forward to having this discussion with you all.
Thank you, Max. And thank you for being here.
I just have to do a quick jump in. Oh my God, Max, you're all grown up and look how cute and wonderful and this good work you're doing.
No, a little bit older.
The pride of Perlman Jewish Day School. And go Owls.
Yeah.
Go Owls. Sharon King, welcome.
Hi.
And say hello.
Hello.
How are
Hi,
you?
I'm fine. Hi, my name is Sharon King. I mean Sharon James. Sharon King James. And my son is John Hagee III. And Celestine, I think her last name is Scholar, is the one who did my son picture, and it was very beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And for being part of this conversation. So I'm going to toss some questions to our whole panel. That is our whole panel, yes? Okay, I got the head nod from Elisa, so I know I'm okay here.
I'm here. I'm David.
Say again?
I'm Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Say hello.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Laura. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Harmon. Elise is the artist of my son, Fresh, Alan Christopher Gray, which passed away, was a victim of gun violence in 2018, September the 30th. Elise did a portrait of my son, gave her information, my family and I gave how we felt about Alan. And Alan was so full of life. That represents him of just being with family. He enjoyed being around his family and his children so much, outside of the other things of going to work, being a dad and so forth. And I say to everyone that my son did have his bouts with the law. My son was killed by a friend 4 doors from my home over an argument, something they had 3 years ago over a cell phone. He was shot in front of his girlfriend and her 2 daughters that was 9 and 12 at the time. I did not know that my son was coming to visit me. But Elise is the artist. And as I tell everyone that I was afraid of the portrait when it was sent to me, when she was complete with it. I was afraid of it, but I love it today. I am no longer afraid of it. It's the acceptance of knowing that my son will not come back. He will not come back. So with knowing that and seeing that the portrait of what Elise did, I could just say I love it. I love it. And I appreciate her for including my family and us to give her insight on more than just him being a gunshot victim, of what his life was like with the family, with his children. Great dad, wonderful father to his children. I can say that. And a great son, great son. Thank you for letting me share that piece with you all. Elise, I love you. I love my portrait. We all do. The family loves the portrait.
Thank you for being here, Lisa.
Thank you.
So I want to see if we can focus in a bit on healing and what a healing process looks like. You co-victims, I understand that's our new terminology, have suffered a terrible trauma. And how do you heal? Before anybody jumps in on that, let me refine the question a little bit. What is the role that community plays in your healing? What is the role the community plays in your organization's work? That aspect of it for Laura and Max. What might be the role of faith or spirituality in all of our work, in your healing, and frankly, in this very difficult time that we're all living through and living in? So community, faith, spirituality, and healing.
I don't know if you ever really heal. You learn to live with it. For me, I had community resources. I had the Anti-Violence Network, and they put me in touch with some therapy and counseling. And through that, I was able to be put in contact with Soul Shots. And that piece, for me, I was stuck in the trauma. I was stuck in the fact of losing my son. My son was murdered in my home, and I was present when it happened. So for me, I was stuck in that trauma, and I was so focused on the fact that he was gone. Through therapy, I learned that that was such a small portion of his life. And actually, my therapist stated that life was like a book. The hardcover was when you first come into this world. The pages were the actual life that you lived, and the hardcover at the end was when you transcend. So I had lost touch with the pages in between. And Soul Shots helped me to find those pages in between, because my artist, Christopher Hartgrove, didn't ask how my son died. He was one of the few people that didn't ask about the trauma. He wanted to know who my son was. So it forced me to pull out videos, and I had so many videos and so many pictures of my son. And because of COVID, like was stated, we couldn't meet face to face. So I had to send him those, and it forced me to look through my son's life instead of living in his death. And when I saw the picture, it was, for me, I never knew how much my son and I looked alike until I took a picture standing next to that picture. And for me, it was a piece of my son that still lived. Being able to see that picture and that smile on his face, he brought my son to life on canvas. I couldn't put it in better words. And I will always be grateful for that. Faith, I've had a lot of my members, my sisters and brothers of my faith, speak to me. For a while, there was no faith for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but for a while, I prayed to God when I lost my son, I prayed to God for things that basically were impossible. And because I didn't get the impossible, I felt like God didn't hear me. So it's taken me a while to realize that things happen that are beyond our control, and that God doesn't leave us. God is there with me when I cried. God was there with me when I thought about killing myself. God was there with me when I thought about vengeance and all the other negative things that wouldn't have brought my son back and wouldn't have made me feel any better. So my faith helps me realize that everything that I've gone through may not have necessarily been for my benefit, but I can be a benefit to someone else. One of my sisters lost her son the same way, tragically, to gun violence. And I was able to be a support to her. And that also helps me to live in this process. I wouldn't say heal, because that wound will always be there. but it keeps it from becoming infected. I will always feel like a piece of me is gone. Maybe after after my process, maybe I won't. But for me, it's only been a little more than 2 years. So for me, I still feel that. I don't cry every day anymore. And I can look at my son's life and not his death.
That image of the wound is always there, but there are things perhaps that we can do to keep it from becoming infected, is really powerful, really grabbing me. Arlene, thank you so much. And if others are able to speak to the role of therapy, if that's been part of your experience, I think that would be really interesting and valuable for folks to hear about. But I don't want to telegraph it too much. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
Want me to?
Yeah, get in. Same basic question: community, faith, healing.
For me,
What helps? All that stuff.
none of that helps for me. Everyone grieves differently. For me, I had to accept the fact of my son not coming back to me. What I did was what got me through it is that we all have a birth date, we all have a death date. We just don't know when. All the signs were there for me. I was told that God was giving me signs of it happening to my son, and He was preparing me for that. Groups, community. For me personally, groups, community didn't help. Doesn't help me. For me, that if you haven't stood in my shoes, or if you haven't lost a child, you will never understand. For me, I had to learn how to walk through my own journey before I could help someone else. So I did a support group, but the support group wasn't helpful enough to me. It started to become more grieving than helpful. With the COVID situation, we were getting more mothers in who were losing their children. So I can't be supportive if I can't get through my own self to help myself to help someone else. So that allowed me to, just for me personally, everyone is different. I do have Elise and Gabby, who is phenomenal, who checks on me and talk with me a lot. I love them, ladies. I love them so much. My portrait, I take and look at that to look at my son's life. Uh, I do that for me. My faith, I started to, for a person who never did believe or had any faith, after losing my husband last year, I needed something to hold on. I needed something. For me, people, to me, in my experience of me and my losses and the griefs and things, people have a tendency to not understand the grief that you're going through sometimes. And I had to learn to do it myself. I have to learn my journey, my grief myself. So with that, I started prayer. I started praying and started praying. That's all I could do was start to pray, which actually is a little bit healing for me. I am able to look at Fresh's videos and the portrait that Elise did for my son without crying anymore. So time alone, time with self, time with trying to figure out who I am and where I'm going, accepting my loss of my son and my husband was time for me. I thought I would never be alone. I thought I always needed to go somewhere to get someone to help me to understand, to help me through my grief, to help me with my crying, to understand that. But I can only do that with God. And I'm learning that process. I'm learning how to be humble and accept the fact that, as they say, life is a circle. You know, as they say, it evolves. We go through the circle of life, as they say. It is what it is. I do know that I've accepted the fact that I will see them again. I really feel personally, I will see them again. My son and my husband, I will see them again. And that gives me hope. So right now, in order for me to be better for myself, learn my journey, understand my journey, continue to read my book, and whoever reaches out, I never thought that, and no disrespect to anyone here on this panel, that outside of the community, that other people such as Soul Shots and you guys and Dave, that anyone ever cared about our children, and I love you guys. To know that other people actually do care about our stories, about our lives, about our loved ones losing their lives, took a toll on me. And it's so appreciated and so loved that others outside of the community care about our loss, our loss. So I thank you all, and I appreciate you allowing me to share my story and some of my process of me trying to get through my grief. I still cry hard every day, you know what I mean? But it does get better. I couldn't see that. People say, Lisa, it will get better. It will get easier for you. It will get easier. You're never going to lose that, but it will get easier. So his birthday is coming up, the 26th of February, which was rough. And the death of my husband is February the 22nd.
Oh,
So I was trying to figure out how to get that and get past that and get by, but I will. I will. I never thought that it would be a little easier each time, but for me, it's moment by moment to take care of me, to be able to live and understand and look at the picture. It's moment by moment, not day by day, moment by moment for me with my losses. Anything else? Did I miss something? Did I
no,
miss something?
no. Sharon, I wonder if you want to weigh in here.
Yes, thank you. With the community efforts, I didn't get that much community help when my son died in January 18, 2019. I found out things through word of mouth. And with the therapy, I went through my job first. And then someone from, I think it was Northwestern, they the ones who told me to go to the therapy that they offer there. And my therapist, I'm still seeing her today. Excellent. I thank God that you brought that. Got her in my life because it helps me. I heard from a lot of people saying therapy, no, no, you don't need it. It helped me heal. I'm not healed, but I'm getting through the process. And a lot of things in my life, we and her talked about that helped me get to where I'm at now. And right now, I'm, the different organizations. The only group that I am is called Voices by Choices. That's a mom group or parent group. And the person with there, her name is Tiara, and I did add her on to the Zoom, so she is here on here. But she helped me. She called me every day, see how I was doing, reaching out to me. And at first, I didn't want to go because I thought I wasn't ready yet. But now with the portrait with Soul Shots, I gave it to a lot of moms that I know that have been touched by gun violence for their children. So a lot of people will be contacting because I gave the information to them. The portrait of my son, of his smile that always gave me that reassurance that I had to see my son the day he died. I wanted to go to the scene and they wouldn't let me because he was killed right there at North Philly at Board in Glenwood. My son was still sitting in the car. And I asked the police, could I see him? Because I wanted to see his face expression, to see that he go to heaven. And my son, I'm sorry, y'all. My son was in the car with another person that they was after. It wasn't meant for my son. And he took a life for a friend. That's what the pastor said to me. And that was his funeral. This pastor didn't know my son at all. But when he preached his funeral, he said this young man gave his life for a friend. His mother lost 2 sons to gun violence. And I think that day, I don't think God wanted her to go through that again. And my son gave up his life. That's how I feel. And with my picture of Soul Shots, I feel like that smile on his face is telling me, Mom, I'm okay. And that's why I'm so happy she chose that picture of him, because I gave her a lot of pictures. But she said to me, I want to do this picture. And I let her do it. And that picture shows the smile of my son smiling to me and letting me know I'm okay. And that I did it because he loved his friends, he loved his family. He was loyal to his friends and family. And right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm going on a journey with my life to help other moms. Just like one of the moms just said, with the groups and organizations we have out here, a lot of them don't know what the pain we are going through because you haven't faced it. But I feel like myself going out here to help and talk to different moms, which me and the woman, I'm in a group called Voices by Choices. We go on Sundays and we talk to moms who have been affected by gun violence. And they have the smile on their faces where somebody knows what I'm going through. And I thank all the organizations that's on this panel with us today. And the Seeds of Fire, I never heard about your program, but I will outreach to you to see if I can help out. But other than that, Soul Shots, I thank y'all so much. And Gabrielle, my therapist, I thank her so much for being in my life. And thank y'all for the picture. And that's what I can say. My son's smile is going to go on, and that's coming from me. He's going to keep on smiling up there on me. So thank y'all so much.
So, Elisa's holding that. Hold it up again. We've got Elisa spotlighted now. So if you're on speaker view, you're seeing the picture. Thank you. What was it like seeing the portrait for the first time?
I cried.
I dropped it. I was like, no. I was in denial that that's not my son. I have him here. I have my husband, him and Fresh here. I have my husband and me on the back. But when I saw that, I dropped it. I was in denial. That's not my son. That's not Fresh. That's not his smile. I say she's got it wrong. It's got to be done over again because this is not Fresh's smile. You know what I mean? And the ladies from the group was like, Lisa, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But that was me not wanting to accept the fact that my son was not coming back to me, that it was actually real. It set in that it was actually real, that Fresh, his name is Alan, we call him Fresh, was not coming back. So I was afraid of it, but I love it today.
When I saw David's photo for the first time, my artist didn't tell me which photo he was going with. I like everybody else, I sent 1,000 photos. I sent like maybe 5 or 6 videos. I didn't know which photo he would select or if he would just go from one of the videos. When I saw David's photo, it was dead on. Literally, when I saw it, all I could do was smile. And I cried a little bit, but all I could do, he captured my son to the T. The revelation that I had, like I said, when I went to see it when it was on display, and I took a picture of me next to it. And when I went home and I looked through the pictures, I realized how much my son and I looked alike. I never saw that because to me, he looked like his father. But when I saw the photo and it was just, he took a picture of my son smiling, which was a rare occasion. My son hardly ever smiled. He was very direct and to the point. He was no nonsense. So if you got to see that smile, those of us who saw that smile, loved that smile. It was a smile that would light up a room. And he was always cracking jokes. But he only did it around family. So if you didn't know him, you would think he was mean or standoffish. But when you knew him, you knew what that smile was. And when I saw that smile, all I could do was smile and cry. I'm like, oh my goodness, he captured life on canvas. It wasn't just a picture or a portrait of my son. It was in that moment because I was there when that picture was taken. So he captured that moment. So for me, it was a part of my process. I won't say the stages of grief, it was a part of my process, and it allowed me to move past the fact that I lost my son. It allowed me to appreciate the time that I had with my son. And that was one of those moments. And for him to be able to capture that on canvas, excuse my cat, please. For him to be able to capture that, really cat. For him to be able to capture that on canvas was impressive. I've seen pictures, I've seen photos, but rarely do you see a picture of someone you knew personally, created by someone who never met them, and have them recreate that moment. And he did just that. He really did. He really did. It was amazing. And I love the picture. I love it. I took a picture of it. I've printed it out. I've put it on my social media. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's like weeds and dandelions. It's everywhere. I loved it. It helped me. It made me feel like my son wasn't gone. I know I'll never physically see him again, but for me, the photo let me know that sometimes when you lose loved ones, you feel like their life or their memory won't live on. That picture let me know that part of my son will always be here, not just in me, but in his friends, his family members who loved him. My son didn't have any children, but it let me know that he's never really gone. His physical body may be gone, but his spirit and his memory will always be here. So it was wonderful. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Arlene, did you get a color print of it?
No.
Do you want one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
And if I can just add a little nerdy artist comment, this artist, Christopher Hardgrove, this is the second portrait he's done for us. And he doesn't paint on canvas, he paints on t-shirts. And I think the materials that artists choose can really, I'm not going to put this right, but there's something just so warm about his work. And I think the t-shirt has a lot to do with it. And I've never asked him if these are like his t-shirts that he doesn't need anymore or whatever, but I just thought I would throw that in there. But yes, it's such a sensitive, beautiful piece of work. So we'll get you a print of it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Max, I want to put a question to you a little more directly. Talk to us about the role of community in Ceasefire PA's work. How does that all work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I don't want to speak on behalf of survivors and their families because everyone goes through grief differently, everyone heals differently, like we've talked about. But there are certain things that community can do to make sure that the healing process can move forward as smoothly as possible. So what Ceasefire PA does, we recommend groups, the groups for therapy and discussion. I work with a group of paralyzed victims out in West Philadelphia who just share their grief and share their stories and their struggles. But an important thing the community can do is make sure that survivors and their families have the resources to move on. And that's something that we won't really talk about as much. 313 people are killed a day from gun violence and are shot. And 103 of those individuals are killed, but 210 of those individuals on average survive and have to go through life surviving gun violence, and that can drastically change your life. You might be in a wheelchair, you might have a colonoscopy bag now, you might not be able to see anymore. And we want to make sure that people impacted by gun violence get the resources they need to rebuild their life the best they can. There's actually a bill that's going to be reintroduced this year, actually this week, by Senator Bob Casey from Pennsylvania and Representative Dwight Evans, who represents parts of Philadelphia, called the Resources for Victims of Gun Violence Act. And what it would do is it would instruct all our government agencies to communicate together and form a panel and identify the needs of survivors and their families. You know, we talk about financial support, we talk about medical support, legal support, education, workplace, transportation, housing. All these things need to be addressed and are impacted by gun violence. Say an individual can't work anymore or can't get into their apartment building because they're now paralyzed and in a wheelchair. we need to make sure that our government's doing everything we can to help better the lives of these individuals unfortunately impacted by this crisis. Something that's also not talked about a lot is justice. And that's something we try and help find for families. Not every family finds the killer, and or is able to find justice in the case. And sometimes there's not communication between the law enforcement officers or the district attorney's office and families. Sometimes families never hear from case officers or from lawyers, and that's really unfortunate. And that's a broken part of our system. We need to make sure there's accountability within law enforcement and district attorney's offices. We need to make sure that we treat this like a public health epidemic by addressing all the needs of survivors so they can rebuild their lives. And that is part of what the community's responsibility is. We take care of individuals when they go through something like this, and that's something we're working towards. And like I said, I don't want to speak for what Arlene, Sharon, and Lisa have gone through. I'm sure they could speak to this more about how the government can be doing more.
Yes.
Max, can I say something on that?
Yes, of course.
For my case for Alan, I've been on Zoom with some of the other ladies with Carlos Vega that wants to run for DA. We've also had meetings with Larry Krasner. My case, to me, like he's apprehended, he's arrested. He's given 15 to 35. But for me, there was no justice there, because to me, my case, as I said it out to Vega, that it was premeditated. So a lot of people get angry when we're asked. I'm gonna say, I can't speak for every mother and father and everyone, but I say for me that it wasn't justice. To me, it wasn't justice, though. No matter, I did accept it afterwards. No matter what life sentence he get or what sentence, it will not bring my son back. I had to get that. It took a minute for me to get that. It wasn't registering until I decided to give up and let God do it. It's out of my hands. So for me, asking them and talking with them, they tell you things that they're going to implement and things that they're going to change when they get in office and what they're going to do. Krasner told us from the beginning that, that all his DAs are going to take plea deals. Alan's case was a life sentence, which the gentleman didn't get. It was premeditated. So to leave the scene and come back and shoot my son is premeditated to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the justice, they said that, because he had a good record and he had a gun scene, he took a life. And a lot of us aren't happy with that. We're asked to give information. We're asked to if we have any information on a perpetrator, if we know where they live at, or anything that we can do to help. And we're doing so. And then to come and get the slap in the face, it makes people sometimes not want to give or help the police at all. For sometimes, I was just fortunate enough to have people detectives and things who was willing, but I'm calling every day. I'm calling the detective down HC. I'm going every day, talking to them every day. Hear my voice. You know what I mean? Get this person before I do. You know what I mean? It's I get it and understand it's not a police enough officers around to I know they get overwhelmed with all the gun violence and things that are going on, and I get that, and I understand. But when you have families who's doing the work, who's helping them to close the case or get that person apprehended, to have someone to just do 5 years or come back out again and up for parole, it's too much. It's too much for a lot of people to handle. And if you're asking me, my ADA asked me, what do I want? I said, for me, it's life for life. His was premeditated, life for life. That would make me happy. And you tell me that you can't do that. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's frustrating when you're asked, what can we do? What would you like for us to do? When you have the videotapes, you have the witnesses, you have the children, you know what I mean? You have, we all had cameras on the block, and it hurted so much for me to work at Temple Hospital and not be able to help my son. I couldn't help my son, but to sit there and just be with him and let him know that I'm there. So sometimes it's frustrating with that. I'm going to say for me, but at the end of the day, I had to let it go and give it to God because it still wouldn't bring my son back no matter what sentence he got. and working with them. We've tried, the group that I was in, we've tried talking with them. How can we come in? How can we help? How can we help you with some of the unsolved cases that you have? You know what I mean? We can just come in and look for cases, find and try to see our information. We ask to work with them, but political things and the office politics is always implemented somewhere along the line, even though they're asking us to give our opinions, our input, and help this. I don't see any progression on it. I just don't. I don't know where to go.
Lisa, I'm so sorry that you experienced that. And something else that we see, besides families being able to have that moment where they call out the individual responsible, is families don't hear from their detectives. They want to know things like, when can I get the phone, the cell phone back of the individual? How can we help just move that along? How can we get the clothes back from that individual? Those are, that maybe they're wearing something important at the time, and just how can we make sure our government and our law enforcement, entities are doing the best they can to honor the victims and, honor the survivors.
If you're not, you have to be there to call, as I did, call morning, noon, and night. Getting off work, I'm there. I'm in their face. Remember my face. Remember my son's name. I'm not going to let up on that. And I didn't. And I know they get swamped with it. So sometimes unintentionally it may get by, but you fight for them. I'm my son's advocate. I have to fight for him. Whatever I need, I go to the detectives, I go to the police. I went everywhere. This is what you're asking of me. This is what you want from me. I'm giving it to you. I'm here. Hear me. Hear me. Hear my voice. So I just happened to get, I don't know if I did or not, but I just needed them to know every single day that I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. You have some police officers who's willing to help. You have some that may be too busy or they can't, they just don't care. It's too many, it's nothing I could do. I don't know, but for being persistent, that's all I knew how to do. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to cry anymore. So I had to do something for Alan, so some of the police do, I don't know, but I just had to be there every day so they could see my face and not forget my son.
Arlene, Sharon, do you all want to add to this piece?
For me, justice, there is no justice. You're not going to bring me back my son. And I don't want the person who murdered my son murdered. I would never want another mother to feel what I feel. And
I wasn't there.
For me, justice would be to never have another mother feel what I feel, for there to be an end to mothers burying their children. Nothing's going to bring my son back. Nothing's going to change that. He's gone. The person who took my son's life is not in jail. It was a friend of his. I know it was, can't prove it was, but I'm sure it was. I can relate with my other panelists when she said she couldn't help her son. I was home. My son died in my arms. I'm a certified CPR instructor. I'm a registered nurse. There was nothing I could do to save my son. And for a long time, I wanted vengeance. What I wanted wasn't justice. I wanted vengeance.
Yes.
I wanted somebody else buried like my son was going to be buried.
Yes, absolutely.
For me, I'm at a point now, the pain that I deal with, and it never goes away. I mean, you learn some days are better than others, but the emotions that I go through, some days are good days, some days are bad days. What I feel and what I have to endure, I would never wish on another human being. So for me, justice is not somebody being put away for life, because that's not going to bring my son back. Don't get me wrong. If they could catch the person who did it, I would never want them on the street to be able to do it to another person.
Yes.
But justice for me is never having another child be buried from senseless gun violence, from anything other than natural causes. Justice for me is no mother burying their child. We're not meant to bury our children. Our children are supposed to bury us. So justice for me is not whether or not they paid for the crime committed. Justice, in my eyes, would be never having to have this panel or soul shots or therapy or medication or homicide. None of this ever again. That's justice to me. And in order to get to that point, we as members of the community have to learn to speak up. There's a fear of speaking up because if you speak up, you're a rat. You got a target on your back. If you speak up, you jeopardize your life. I can understand why nobody would ever speak up and say what they know for fear of losing their lives. It's not going to bring my son back. But at the end of the day, if we want to put an end to burying our children, that's the only way it's going to happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. If we start speaking up and saying when we see something we know is wrong, speaking up and protecting our children, because as long as we can turn a blind eye to it, we'll continue to bury our kids. And that's just what it is. And no, we'll never get justice. Neither of us will ever get our sons back. None of us. But justice would be never having another mother have to sit here and talk about losing their son, or another parent talking about losing their child, or another sister or brother talking about losing their loved ones. That's justice. Justice is putting an end to this senseless violence. That's justice for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, if I can lay down at night and know no other person would be slaughtered or murdered in the streets and go unrecognized, that's justice for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to share how we can do that, but first I want to make sure Sharon has an opportunity.
Yes, thank you. Max, before you jump in, Sharon.
She said, the mom right there just said a lot. And to me is justice is not going to be served. And I really do think, like they said, community, we have to get together and stick together and come out here and try to find who killed our children, because the politicians and everybody out there, they are not in our shoes. They don't know what's going on out here. All they go by Instagram, Facebook, and all this other social media stuff that's going out here. We have resources and you can find these killers. I believe it. So I just think that it's people not doing their jobs. And we need to get people in the office and people at these companies to do their jobs. That's what we need to do. And to me, for justice is, like she said, we never going to find justice, but we all going to miss our children. And right now is us as parents and community to stand up and let's help each other.
Absolutely. No family should ever have to experience the pain, unfortunately, yours have. No family should go through this. And we need to work to address the violence in our communities. And we can do that by addressing two points. One is the easy access to firearms in our country. We have more guns than any other country in the world. And as a result, we have the largest gun violence crisis in the world. 114,000 people are shot every year. And we need to address that. Here in Pennsylvania, you could go into a gun shop if you have a clean background record and buy 100 guns at once. No questions asked. I make a payment. My background check is ran. I have a clean record. I can buy 100 guns and then go and turn around and sell them on the streets and sell them to individuals who can't legally own a firearm. That's called a straw purchase. And one of the things we're working to address that is we're trying to pass a law that requires individuals to report to police if their guns are lost or stolen. If you have a gun and it becomes lost, that's fine. Report it to police so police know about it. But the great thing about this law would be if individuals continuously report that their guns are lost, we can identify straw purchasers and we can work to prevent them from doing it and hold them accountable for their actions. Something else that we're doing is making sure that violence and intervention programs are funded in cities like Philadelphia, making sure that we are addressing people who are at risk for turning to crime, turning to gun violence. And people ask a lot, well, why is there so much gun violence in Philadelphia? We need to address the root causes, and that has to do with poverty, access to housing, access to education, access to job opportunity. We need to be addressing those as well, not just the access to guns. We really need to take a look at, why is someone choosing to pick up a firearm and choosing to turn to crime? And how can we prevent that from happening? And we need to address it not just in the lens of honoring victims and honoring their families, we also need to address it from a public health epidemic. The same communities that are impacted the most by gun violence are unfortunately right now the most impacted by COVID-19. And that's not, that's not happening by accident. that's happening because communities need more resources and we need to address them.
Yes, we do. My thing with the resources, as you say, the gun, for me, the children have nothing to do. When the recreations was being closed, the after school programs were being closed, the children have nowhere to go. You know what I mean? For most of them, those were meals for them to go to after school programs. They had a meal for those who didn't get it at home. Instead of taking these abandoned buildings that we have and trying to create prisons, make them a community center, turn them into something where these young children, and I think we have to start from the younger adults, the young children, to let them know that people care, they are loved. You know what I mean? Start with that and not retaliation of losing their brother or sister. I just think for me, it was their innocence was lost once after school programs, recreational things were taken away from them. They have nothing. So they're home. For those who have access and can do the homework, yes, for the most part, they're doing their video games. Life is my video game. And at one time for me, my children, I know where they are. They can play video games. Let them play their video games. But to help them with more of education, learning just to learn a computer, letting them know that it's somebody out there that loves them. You know what I mean? That's willing to show them and give them support, to teach them to go on the direction of not being able to sell drugs. You know, you have the older men who's giving the little children and the smaller children these guns and drugs and saying, letting them think that, okay, if y'all get caught, you're not going to get that much time. You know what I mean? For those who are willing, we have children out there who I've seen and been with who in their environment of not being able to have food for themselves, go to the drug dealers who pay them to hold their drugs or keep lookout or hold their guns for them. That's a daily norm for them. So if that's what it takes for them to get money and put food on the table for their little brother or sister, then that's what they're going to do. So you have 9 and 12-year-olds who've done that. So if we can have a recreational center, a support, a boys club, a pals club, anything where these children can go and put their minds to work at it, to educate, so we can educate them more and show them that gun violence is not the way. Selling drugs is not the way. I just think that the police here, and no disrespect to anybody here on this planet, anyone that's here, they don't give a damn. They really don't. It's helping for me. It's okay. They want to kill themselves. Let them go ahead. That's less work for me to do. That's the last person I got to lock up or take. That's less paperwork for me. Instead of the community getting together to work on the younger children, as they say, the children are our future. They are our future. And without them being nourished and being able to function correctly, knowing that people care and that it will get better, it's not going to get better. It's going to continue to get worse because there's nothing for them to do. It's not nothing for them to do. They can't even go outside and play on a basketball court anymore. They can't do anything but sit in the house. And then unfortunately, we have some children who parents aren't there. You have some that's not equipped to help them with their homework. Some that aren't feeding them. So if they have a place where they can go to help them with their homework, after school programs, give them some nourishment and to teach them it will get better, just hold on. And I think we had a chance. But if we don't have none of that and just building prisons for just at random because we can, I'm going to say our Black young men making prisons and not trying to find a better solution than just making prisons, because they can also learn a trade. Men can learn a trade to do something. They are looking at, oh, I got a record, I can't get a job. You know what I mean? But with seeking help and trying to teach a man how to become a man and how to be responsible. This is how you do this. This is how you work a computer and not a gun. You know what I mean? This is how you click this on and not pull that trigger. To rethink things, to respond and not react to someone stepping on a sneaker, or you looked at me wrong, let me shoot you. That's just for me personally. I think that if we had more of that, you would have children being more productive and willing to learn. It's more I want to say, but I don't want to take up a lot of time. But that's just me. I just think we need that. Sorry, y'all.
I agree with you totally. And through my tragedy, I wanted to open a community center. I'm currently in school for my doctoral so that I can open up a community center and a health center and underserved communities. I want more than one center. I have several people who are on board with me to do holistic healing. I have CDL drivers, contractors, so that we can do trade education. So it's in the beginning stages, like I said, but you hit everything on the nail. Everything that I am trying to do, you hit you hit it on the nail. So, but I think we could use help. I know I definitely use help because I'm taking out more
Okay.
student loans than I can afford to pay back. But that's okay, because the difference that I'll make in these communities will be my paying back. I don't care if I'm broke every day. I can sleep in one of my clinics. I don't care. But as long as I can make a difference and try to improve the situation to keep anybody else from feeling what we've gone through, then that's my payment. That's enough for me. So you touched everything, and it just kind of reinforced that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm going in the right direction. And I thank you for that. Because I struggle every day in class, and I'm like, should I be doing this? I have a nice, comfortable, cushiony job. I'm okay. I own my home. And should I risk all that? And you just reaffirmed that I'm doing the right
Need to
thing.
do
I
it.
thank
Right.
you for that.
You are.
Right. Right.
Sharon, take
Same
the last.
here.
Sharon, take the last word.
Yeah, same here, ladies. I'm out. I'm doing the same thing. I joined a women's group. We go out on Sundays to reach out to the communities for the moms who lost their children. And I'm also going to be a research person for, like, I think his name is Mark. I'm sorry if I forgot your name, from Caesar Fire.
Okay.
To get information from all these different organizations to give to these moms when we go see them. So we'll be the front line, the person who can help and spread the word about all these different information. And like you said, ladies, y'all all give me inspiration just now, just talking and listening to y'all, that I'm going to do it too. So
We
thank
need to
you.
network. We need to network.
Yes.
Yeah, and look, if you want to get more involved in these community groups, and that's great, we need more support there. We also need to work to, at the same time, working to address the gun violence in our community, making sure no family goes through this. So if you want to get more involved, please,
Absolutely.
reach out to
So Max,
yeah.
tell us how to get more involved and be specific.
Yeah, go to ceasefirepa.org, sign up. We'll connect you with your lawmaker, let you know when there are bills coming up in the state house and on the federal level and in city council that need your voice. Lawmakers need to hear from you on this, making sure that victims have resources after these tragedies occur, making sure that we're working to help young people before they turn to violence or turn to crime. Philadelphia, we just did a poll in Philadelphia and found that 88% of young people's number one fear is dying from gun violence. We need to talk about the trauma that's associated with that. We need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to mentor these young people and get them to be able to safely be adults. And
Yes.
that's what I'm asking.
Not getting it, Max. Max, I don't want to be a damper on your parade, but I've been in meetings at City Hall before the pandemic. Kenyatta Johnson, Larry Krasner. We've had a Zoom meeting with the new commissioner. You know what I mean? So they're saying what's limited. You know what I mean? And for those that want to get in the office, we'll say what we need to hear. You know what I mean? They'll come to the grieving parent and the grieving mothers of gunshots to get our vote, to get them there. But once they're in office, that's when the political stuff come into play. Like they're not doing, I don't see anything. I don't see anything that anybody is trying to help a grieving family, mother nor father, anywhere in office of trying to help us. And from the things that they're saying out their mouths and telling us, we need them. We need their help. That's why they're elected. That's why they're in that office. So show us, give us some of what we asked for. Give us what you promised a grieving mother and father and family. Show us that. Don't turn your back on us once you're in office. And that's what a lot of us have seen. We've seen it from their mouths, from Krasner's mouth. All these, it's heartbreaking because we want to believe in these political people. We want to believe in it, but it's difficult when they go back on their word.
And Lisa, we need more than lip service. That's why we need to unify together and
Yes.
help these lawmakers. And on March 23rd, we're actually going to be having a virtual lobby day to meet with state lawmakers to talk about gun policies and talk about, moving this issue forward. So if you're free at all on March 23rd, I'm going to put the link in the sign up. Please sign up. We'll link you with your lawmakers. We're going to have meetings with Republicans and Democrats and independent lawmakers to move this issue forward, to work to address gun violence and to work to address the serious need for help in our communities. And more than just talking to talk, but not just having hearings, but actually having meetings, convincing your lawmakers why they need to be signing on to these important life-saving policies.
So that
Yeah,
so that
yeah, I
sign up
see
is
that.
in there. Beth Am Israel will be participating, but it
Okay.
also but it also strikes me that that's one piece of the puzzle, supporting some of the grassroots efforts, the likes of which Arlene has described, feels to me like another part of the puzzle. And I am hopeful that we can find a way to support that work too. That would be my desire anyway. So Arlene, Sharon, Lisa, let's keep talking and figure out how we can support that effort from within our community and really help you expand that out.
I think my opinion on that is us moms, we are the ones who are going through this battle. I think us as moms and ladies, y'all might agree with me. We all know a friend, family, somebody who also is going through this. And for my aspect, I just about 3 people this week. I just got contact from them mothers. One live in Jersey, one lives in North Philly, one lives in South Philly. I know them personally, and they telling me my son just got killed. So I'm telling them I'm gonna get the information for you. I'm gonna reach out to different organizations, give you your name, so you can get out there with us and try to fight. And we need to get more of the parents involved in this. My son father also, he's going to the men's groups that they have out here. He's getting involved. So I just think, ladies, that I think what we're trying to say is us being the moms, we gotta make a movement. We gotta stand up and fight for our children.
I think we all come with 3 different perspectives, and together we could actually make a difference. You kind of tackle it from the standpoint of actually community and the moms and what they're going through and resources. I'm coming at it with trying to prevent it from happening, and our other panelists is trying to deal with it in the legislation and things like that. But I think the 3 of us together, we really need to network, because if we can come together, we could really make a difference. We just have to work. I think we can. There's so many other people that will be willing to support us and come on board. We just have to put this together. We really do.
Yes.
Great. We're going to land our conversation, I think right here with one last piece. Laura, I just want to ask you to give us a closing word about coming to see the Soul Shot exhibit.
And see it. Yeah, you have to see it in person to really get the full impact. And I think, and I should publicly thank Elisa and George for helping to hang the portraits for the second time. And I think they will agree that when you're in the room, you can feel the souls. You really can. And I'm one of the artists, I didn't do a portrait for this particular one, and most of the artists will tell you that when they're working on the pieces, that they really do feel a sense of connection. And I think the exhibition brings that sense of connection to people that maybe had no idea what the extent of the damage from this epidemic of gun violence, what it does and how far it goes. So yeah, come and see it in person, and then go to Ceasefire PA and sign up for all that stuff.
And get involved. Laura, Max, Arlene, Sharon, Lisa, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, for being part of this conversation. And thank you all for for being on and being an active part of this conversation on the chat and in other ways. Come see the exhibit, get involved in Ceasefire PA's work, and together, let's also be involved in helping Arlene, Sharon, and Lisa organize and build and make a difference.
Yes.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us. Love you,
Thank
Lee.
you.
so much.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you
And a
too.
very big
Thank you.
shout out to Gabby Lipkin and Elisa Abeloff,
Yes. Yes.
BAI champions
I
Yes.
love those ladies.
who made this happen.